What are you supposed to do when you hit rock bottom? Hi, my name is Arius Williams. I'm a life coach. I help men stop dealing with self-sabotage and procrastination and design and get to their dream life. So if that sounds like you can join my free course below, or you can book a call directly with me to know how to get into our program. But if you came here today just because of the title of the video, then we need to talk. We need to talk about how do you deal with being on the rock bottom? How do you deal with feeling like your entire world has collapsed, nothing is going for you, you have messed up everything, no self-belief, no lack of, companionship? How do you deal with it? And I think the easiest way for me to tell you is to give you a little bit of a story time and to tell you how I dealt with my rock bottom. So we have to go back to my beginning. I was a high school student in a small town called Niles, Michigan, where I graduated with honors, but I had began to deal with some issues with depression and self-doubt. This started because, like all of us, over a relationship that I had that didn't work out, and I had not realized how to deal with those emotions. I didn't have coping skills. I didn't have goals. I didn't have vision. I didn't have any of the tools that I have now. In fact, I think a lot of the times we can't even get the tools because there's no reason to learn them until you've gone through the rock bottom. So that's also a hidden bonus. Rock bottom will teach you things that being at the top you would never learn. And it's important to understand that. But nonetheless, I was a young kid going through it, and I decided to go to college to become a new person. I'm sure many of us can relate to this. I went to a new school that was not too far away, but Grand Valley State University. Any of my Lakers know what's up. But when I went there with the intentions of inventing this new person who nobody knew was scared, insecure, and not confident. I joined a fraternity and began finding brotherhood. I was popular. I went to parties. I was hanging out, doing way too much drinking. And I thought I was the man. I had never been this happy, I thought, in my life. And you see, what had happened was in high school, I dealt with those levels of depression. I never truly healed from that. I just went to college and distracted myself with this new fast life. And then something happened. One day, as I was sitting, having a normal time with my fraternity brothers, I decided to get a little extra with my curricular choices, if you catch my drift, and I ended up taking something that would later have me in the hospital, completely removed from my mind. Now, I'll leave it up to your imagination what the substance was, but the point is I ended up having 8 hours of my life that I don't recall at all. And not only do I not recall those hours, but when I woke up from the hours in the hospital, I was informed by the police members standing next to me that I was going to be getting in trouble. And then 2 hours later, I was kicked out of my fraternity. And then after that, I was removed from my apartment, lost my financial aid, got put on probation, and had to move back home in with my mom while I sat in a pity party. Now, this is exactly 9 years ago. Sounds crazy to say this. I was completely at rock bottom. I sat in my mom's apartment day in, day out, feeling sorry for myself. And not only because I wasn't able to do anything from being on probation, my drinking problems got even worse. I was drinking every day inside my apartment. I sat in the house and did nothing but pity and wallow. In fact, one of my favorite parts to bring up about this time in my life was my favorite time of day back then was the morning. And if you're wondering why, it's because at this time, social media platforms actually showed you only the people who you followed's post. So because it wasn't continuously scrolling and continuously having new things to look at, in the morning, was the only time where I had not read literally everything that had been posted on Twitter or Snapchat stories or Facebook wall, to the point where I would refresh and nothing would pop up. Crazy. because I had actually been asleep for a few hours. So therefore I had missed things. But the rest of the day, by 9, 10 a.m., I had already caught back up, read everything. It was sitting there just waiting for something new, waiting for a picture of some girl that I was upset about at the time, waiting for something to make me feel something. And it never happened until one day I saw a movie called The Secret. And in that movie, it was the first time I was introduced to the words of the law of attraction. And to be honest, I like to boil it down to this. This was the first time I had hope in months. That one movie completely transformed the trajectory of my life as I began to believe in myself back then. And 9 years ago, I think that single decision to get up out of the apartment, stop drinking, stop feeling sorry for myself, starting to put in the inputs is how I got to today, where I'm starting multiple businesses, coaching you here today. So if you are ready to get off rock bottom, I want to give you 3 actionable steps. Number 1, recognize that you are not alone. Okay, you just heard it. This happens to everybody. In fact, they wouldn't have the expression being on rock bottom if they didn't do it. If more of us didn't deal with it than we let on to, if more people weren't struggling. In fact, if you ask any of your friends, at least 1 out of 3 of them feels like they're on rock bottom. Just guessing. But if you ask 3 of your friends how they're doing, I'm sure all of them will say, good, how are you? Maybe you said that to somebody today. Maybe somebody asked you if you needed help and you said you didn't. But here you are watching this video because you and I know you're at rock bottom. And there's nothing to be ashamed of that. Because rock bottom is where you learn everything. You can't jump without a base. A building needs a foundation. Once we go from the bottom, we can't go any lower. So if you choose to take from where you are now and ultimately change the path in which you're going, things can change for you. But I will make a guarantee here. If you continue on this path, if you continue on the pity, party, villain, victim mindset, it will never get better. And I mean that. And I mean that from love. And I don't mean that to put you down. I don't mean that to invalidate your feelings, invalidate the things that you've been through. I say that to empower you, that you are stronger, you are better. You can beat this. You will beat this. You just have to continue on. And number 2, the way you can continue on, now that you know you're not alone, now you know that there's other people struggling, is by making sure you're focused on your trajectory, not your results. And what do I mean by that? If you are at rock bottom, right, your results are not one to talk about. We're maybe not proud of our results. But if starting from today, you start to do the work, you're controlling the things you can control and cutting out the things and letting go of the things that you can't. You're starting to work on your health, starting to work on your mindset, meditating, journaling, going through a vision board, joining the free community, whatever. Putting in the inputs. If we focus on only that and not our current results, that will be the game changer. You see, when I realized my life was going to change, I still had a year of probation left to do. When I realized that I would be able to reach 1,000 men, I had to start with the first one. When I started this YouTube channel, I knew it would be a long time before we got any views. But you got to start. And if you start, and if you know that you're putting in the right inputs day in, day out, you will eventually arrive at your destination. And so number 3, practice gratitude at a nauseating level for where you are right now in the suck at rock bottom. And what I mean is for the most simple things. A lot of the times it's impossible for us to feel gratitude for walking until we have the ability to not do it anymore. Until something happens and you can't do something that you've always do every day, you take it for granted. So the quickest way to not feel like you're in rock bottom, even if you are, is to be grateful for the simplest of actions, things, details, and experiences in our life. One of my favorite ways to practice this is to practice the mindful removal of the word I have to. Because there's a lot of times that we have to, but in the truth, we never have to do anything. And if you're doing something that is putting you on the trajectory of your desired result, but maybe is not the most fun activity, then you get to do that. So that way you get to be the person that you want to be. So I hope this video was valuable for you. And the number one thing to remember, if you are somebody who feels like you're on rock bottom, is that this is not the end. This is only day one. This is the beginning of everything you're going to do from this point forward. The only way we know you lose is if you quit. Peace, love, positivity. I'll see you on the next one.